Hello there, listener, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Julian Ramirez, and I started the Visual Mode as my company and as my digital publication for all my works, a place where everything I learn, everything I practice, everything I work on can live in one place and not just be displayed to the world, but also break it down into what is it that's working and what is it that's not working, almost exposing the process and putting it up for criticism, not necessarily to others, but for myself, right? Packaging design and putting it out into the world is incredibly important. It's how you represent your work, it's how you represent your brand. And now in a digital age that we live in, it's more important than ever. I read something really good lately. Identity doesn't mean the same thing as brand, which is very true. A lot of companies, especially a lot of design studios or individual designers, will put a lot of work and a lot of attention into developing their identity and not realize that their identity doesn't necessarily translate to how they're going to be recognized by others in the world, or what creates a consistent visual language for their work. Now, it's actually a really special time, or interesting time, I should say. It's about a year that I left the academic world. For a little background, if you don't know me, I was an art kid, and that led me into studying architecture as a career path for a while. I did a master's in architecture at FIU in Miami, and I actually stuck around to do a second master's in arts of architecture because I had taken jobs in the field and I knew I didn't belong in a corporate office. So I stuck around academia to continue to develop my skills in fabrication specifically. Since I had that artistic background, I always had a fascination with 3D graphics and graphics in general. At one point during my academic career, I started focusing a lot more on algorithmic and generative design. So on top of graphics, I was creating some geometries that would otherwise be very, very difficult to obtain if it weren't for designing through algorithms. Now, when I moved over to fabrication in that second master's, I started getting work or a job at the university doing research for different fabrication methods, ultimately leading to my position as the fabrication lab manager. The reason I had to leave that position was really because I felt myself going stale during the pandemic. It was a tough time for everybody. It was mismanaged to hell from every angle, from every organization, but it took a lot of time and a lot of adjustments from the educational sector to be able to adapt to these new changes. And that left me showing up to work with no one to interact with in a woodshop by myself. And the vacuum was just rotting me away. So after leaving, I've been doing freelance, purely freelance, and I'm that person who thrives in the in-betweens of the physical world and the digital world, right? So let's say A to Z, right? I'll show up at a location, photograph, 3D scan, measure, sketch, through sketching, through mood boarding, come up with ideas or possible directions, develop those ideas in 3D, create technical drawings, from technical drawings, create photorealistic visualizations or conceptual visualizations, moving on to developing the design for fabrication, fabricating, and installing. So this way of working really gives me a lot of understanding and a good application of my architectural knowledge, but the type of work that I might do would shift from interior design to graphic design to motion graphics to 3D printing models, pop-ups, furniture, products. essentially, this workflow I standardized for myself was so technical that it really helped me break down any problem. It really has helped me break down any problem and pivot to always find the best path forward to where I get the solution. Um, and the reason why I started this podcast, circling back, is that this was something I had to really work at this past year, and I'm still working on it. Would I say that this first year of freelance has been successful? No, I set out really, really high goals for myself, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, learned a lot of lessons, and realized that at this point in time, I'm more confident than ever in my capabilities, and it's only gonna grow from here. I'm only gonna become a more capable person moving forward, hopefully a better person as well. Um, so the point of the podcast, again, is to put these ideas up for review. I also have a background from high school of speech and debate, which is why the spoken word has always come a little bit easier for me than writing or even sketching or designing sometimes. So I think this medium is going to work really well for me to put some of these ideas that I have up for review, because I am a very technical person. And I've said a lot in the past where I don't care what a design looks like as long as it looks cool, whatever that means. If it scratches an itch and it looks like something worth pursuing, I'm down to figure it out. Now, this means I've gone a long time without a particular style of my own, and I'm starting to land on something, but it's almost just a sort of a stitching or amalgamation of the styles of the people I most work with, or I currently work with, or the people that are around me. So Vaco Studio, for example, longtime friend of mine's, in my opinion, the best digital agency, creative agency that Miami has to offer. Regularly do work with them, longtime friends of mine, but they've recently really opted for the Bauhaus aesthetic. And it's ironic because I was put into a thesis for architecture for researching and designing for the Bauhaus. But at that point in time, I was very much into my algorithmic designs. So I didn't care very much for the Bauhaus because my focus was elsewhere. Now I have a completely new appreciation for it. And in fact, the whole algorithmic design or parametricism side of design, where you get these really crazy organic shapes that are pretty much impossible to build, if not very, very difficult, unless you're using a technology that is optimized for it, such as robotic arm assemblies or 3D printing. But I find it quite overrated at this point when you realize that there's something about the right type of curve made out of concrete, or the right type of finish on the right material. There's something so primal in that tactile quality of materials that you get at a very, very small scale is such an intimate connection to design that it really has had me thinking and working towards understanding what makes good design. Which I think might also be an impossible question to answer. I think the right type of question to ask then is what makes bad design, right? Because good design can be subjective. The majority of people could agree that it's good. There will be those that will say it doesn't work for them. But a lot of people try to be interesting with their designs. And especially now with all that's being pushed on social media and everybody trying to be a content creator, or everybody trying to put out their art, there's clearly some that's much more appealing than others, right? Very, very few people are successful in this area, even though there's a lot of output. So what makes bad design, right? What is it that you're doing, or what is it that you're developing? What is your decision structure or priority structure for the design. That's a better way to put it. Where are you putting your priority in design that ultimately is leading you to a bad design, to a bad aesthetic, to a poor solution to the problem? And that's really it. I'm an extremely technical person. I love to break down a problem in order to find a solution. I tinker, and I've done that in the field of design for 10 years now. Very, very specialized in software. And now that I'm starting to realize what it was that I was doing with my projects or my designs, especially looking back at my academic work, how misguided I was during my time in academia of what was actually important when it came down to providing a solution, a design solution. So if this is a topic that interests you, would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. I'm going to be putting out at least one a week of different reflections that I have. I've been taking notes every week and sort of journaling on these topics for me to sort of brew through time. So I want to put out one of these every week, very short, just descriptive, thought-provoking things. And I would love to have people to have conversations with and get their opinions or their breakdown on why they choose a certain aesthetic, what in their opinion makes good design, what makes bad design. Is having a very pragmatic, very technical approach to design a good thing? Is it a limiting thing, right? These sort of questions I'm very interested in knowing from very, very different perspectives. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one.